Okay, imagine this. You get some unexpected news. Maybe your car breaks down, or there's a medical bill you weren't planning for. Maybe something even bigger. That knot you get in your stomach. That instant stress of, okay, how am I going to pay for this?
Yeah, that feeling.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into a source that looks at exactly that feeling. It's focused on, one of the most fundamental tools for financial security, the emergency fund.
Right.
Our mission here is to really unpack what this material says, help you understand the essentials of creating your own financial safety net.
And it's really, the source makes this clear, it's about so much more than just the money itself.
Definitely.
It's really about building like a foundation of security, gaining some financial freedom, and honestly, just being able to sleep better.
Yeah.
Knowing you've got a cushion when life, inevitably throws you a curveball.
That's huge. And the source uses this great analogy right off the bat. Think of this emergency fund like your personal financial airbag.
Exactly, like in a car crash.
Right. When things hit unexpectedly, it's just there to soften that blow.
Precisely. And without it, a sudden expense or losing your job, it can send you spinning into high-interest debt.
Turning a bad situation into a disaster.
Yeah, a financial catastrophe. But with that airbag, you've got some protection. You've got options.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then, according to this source. What exactly is an emergency fund? And maybe even more important, what counts as a real emergency that you'd use it for?
Okay, so simply put, it's cash. Money you've specifically set aside and crucially in a separate place just for emergencies.
That specifically for emergencies part sounds key.
It is. The source is really clear on this. This isn't your vacation fund or money for a down payment or, for a new gadget.
Right.
A real emergency, as the source defines it, is something, urgent and unexpected that you absolutely must pay for to avoid things getting much, much worse.
Okay, like what kind of things are we talking about? What does the source list?
So the key examples they give are things like losing your job unexpectedly.
Yeah, the big one.
Significant medical bills that just pop up. Major necessary car repairs, not like upgrading your stereo.
Right, keeping it running.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe emergency travel, like if you have to help family in a crisis. Or unexpected home repairs that are essential, sinks, leaky roof, broken furnace in winter.
Oh, stuff you just can't ignore.
Those are the kinds of unpredictable, gotta deal with it now events this fund is designed for.
Got it. Things you have to handle right now that just weren't in the budget or the plan. Okay, so if this is our financial airbag, how big does it need to be, to actually protect us? What's the starting point the source recommends?
Well, the sort of widely accepted rule of thumb that the source mentions is aiming for about 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses.
3 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, how does someone even figure out what that monthly number is? Like, what goes into that calculation?
Right. You basically need to sit down and figure out your absolute must-pay bills for 1 month.
The non-negotiables.
Exactly. We're talking rent or mortgage, utilities, electricity, water, groceries, insurance premiums, health, car, whatever you have, and any minimum debt payments you need to make.
So tally up all those essential costs.
Yeah, just the bare bones to keep things running for a month.
Okay, so let's say someone does that math and they figure out their essential monthly expenses are, I don't know, maybe $3,000.
Okay, so using that example, then according to the source's guideline, a 3-month fund would be $9,000.
Right.
And a 6-month fund would be double that, $18,000.
Okay, wow. That number, that can sound pretty daunting, right? Especially if you're just starting out.
Oh, absolutely. It can feel huge. And that's where the source immediately follows up with a really critical point.
Which is?
That 3 to 6 months. It's the standard guideline, but it is definitely not a rigid one-size-fits-all rule.
Okay.
You absolutely need to think about customizing this number based on your specific personal situation.
Right, so it's not just a formula. What kind of factors does the source say you should look at to figure out if you maybe need more or maybe less than that standard range?
A really big one is job security. How stable is your income?
Makes sense.
Yeah, like if you have a very stable job, maybe in a high-demand field like healthcare or certain tech roles, where, finding new work quickly is pretty likely if something happened, then maybe the lower end of that range, say 3 months, feels okay. It might be sufficient.
But the flip side.
Right. But if you're self-employed or maybe you work on commission or have a really unpredictable income, seasonal work.
Yeah, gig economy stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're in an industry that's facing layoffs or uncertainty. then the source suggests you really should aim higher.
For a bigger airbag.
Definitely. Maybe closer to 6 months or even up to 9 months of expenses, just to account for that income volatility and give you more runway.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what else shapes that number, according to the source?
Dependence, that's another major factor.
Kids, parents.
Yeah, if you're supporting children or maybe elderly parents, your essential expenses are just naturally higher.
And less flexible, probably.
Often, yes. And that responsibility usually means you just need a bigger cushion. You need more protection there to cover everyone.
Okay. What about health? Does that play a role?
It does. The source points out that if you have, say, chronic health conditions, or maybe you have a health insurance plan with a really high deductible.
Right, where you pay a lot out of pocket first.
Exactly. Then you should probably plan for potentially higher unexpected medical costs. A larger fund just gives you that peace of mind against those specific and potentially huge bills.
Yeah, this can come out of nowhere. There's also a point in the source about debt load. Now, this feels a bit counterintuitive to me. Like, should you be saving up this big emergency fund if you're already buried in high-interest debt, like credit cards?
That is a fantastic point, and the source tackles it directly. It feels logical, right, to just throw every single spare dollar you have at that high-interest debt first. Get rid of it ASAP.
Yeah, because it's costing you so much money.
Exactly. But the risk, the source points out, is that some small emergency, a flat tire, a broken appliance pops up while you're aggressively paying down debt.
Ah, okay.
And if you have zero cushion, you might be forced to, well, use a credit card again, taking on more high-interest debt. Or you have to completely stop your debt payoff plan. It derails your progress.
So you end up right back where you started, or worse. Okay, so what's the source's strategy then? How do you balance those two things?
They suggest sort of a layered approach, a two-step process, really.
Okay.
First, focus on building a smaller, what they call a mini emergency fund. Aim for maybe $1,000 or perhaps $2,000.
Just a small starter cushion.
Exactly. This initial buffer can handle a lot of those common, smaller emergencies we talked about. You know, the unexpected car repair, a minor medical copay.
Right, enough to keep you from reaching for the credit card for those things.
Precisely. And once you have that small buffer in place, then you pivot. You go hard and aggressively attack your high-interest debt. Get that under control. And once the really costly debt is gone or significantly reduced, then you shift focus back to building up your full 3 to 6 month or whatever your target is emergency fund.
That's actually a really smart way to do it. You get some protection quickly, like a safety net for your debt payoff plan.
Yeah, it protects your hustle, as the source puts it.
I like that. Protects the hustle.
It stops one single unexpected event from completely undoing months, maybe even years of hard work paying down that debt.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. So we've covered what it is, why it's so crucial, that airbag idea, how much to aim for roughly, and how to personalize that number. Now, the big question for a lot of people, I imagine, how do you actually build this thing?
Right.
Especially if you're starting from zero or close to it, and that, $10,000 or $18,000 number seems miles away.
Yeah, and the source is very practical about this. They really emphasize building this fund. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You're probably not going to have that full amount sitting there tomorrow or next month. The absolute key is just consistent action, small steps done regularly.
So what are the first concrete steps? What does the source recommend to just get started?
Step 1 is exactly what we just discussed. Aim for that mini fund first.
The $1,000 to $2,000.
Yep, get your first $1,000 or $2,000 saved up. The source suggests this is actually achievable for most people if they really focus on it for a bit.
And it provides real protection right away.
Huge protection against a massive range of those minor to moderate emergencies. And honestly, it's a massive psychological win too, just knowing you have that buffer.
Absolutely. Okay, getting that first chunk is key. What's the next step after that?
Automate it. This is huge. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to a separate savings account.
Every payday or every month.
Whatever works, but consistently. Maybe every payday, maybe twice a month. The source gives this really compelling example. Even if you just transfer $20 a week.
Okay, $20.
That adds up to over $1,000 in a year. $1,040 actually. You barely notice that small amount leaving your checking account, maybe skip one lunch out or something.
Right.
But the savings just grow consistently in the background. You set it and kind of forget it.
Small, consistent steps just adding up over time.
Exactly.
Love that. Okay, what's step 3?
Use windfalls. This is about capturing unexpected money.
Like what?
Maybe you get a tax refund or a bonus at work. maybe cash gifts for a birthday or holiday, or even if you have a side hustle or sell some stuff you don't need online.
Okay.
The advice is take some, or maybe even all, of that unexpected money and direct it straight into your emergency fund. Don't just let it get absorbed into your regular spending without thinking.
Yeah, don't let those opportunities just sort of evaporate. Good one. And step 4.
Cut the waste. This is about actively looking for ways to free up cash from your existing budget, even if it's temporary while you build the fund. Go through your bank statements. Audit your subscriptions. Are you paying for streaming services you don't watch? Gym memberships you don't use?
Yeah. The subscription creep.
Exactly. Maybe pack your lunch a few more days a week instead of buying takeout. Sell clothes or electronics or furniture you don't use anymore. Just look for areas where you can trim spending, find that extra $20, $50, $100 a month to put towards the fund.
These are all really actionable steps. Start small, automate, capture extra cash, trim the fat. Okay, so once you are saving this money, where should it actually live? Where do you put it? The source has some clear criteria, right?
Yes, absolutely. The money needs to be 3 things: accessible, safe, and separate.
Okay, break those down. Accessible.
Means you can get to it reasonably quickly when an actual emergency hits.
Yeah.
You don't want it locked up somewhere you can't touch for weeks.
Makes sense. Safe.
Means it's protected. You don't want to risk losing your emergency money. Think like FDIC insurance at a bank.
Right. And separate. Why separate? We touched on this, but...
Crucial. Keep it separate from your everyday checking account. This is mostly psychological. It helps prevent you from accidentally spending it on non-emergencies.
Out of sight, out of mind, until you need it?
Kind of. If it's just sitting there in the same account you use for groceries and bills, it's just way too easy to dip into it for impulse buys or things that are wants, not true emergency needs. Having it separate creates a small barrier.
Got it. So accessible, safe, separate. What's the best place that meets all 3 criteria, according to the source? Where should people park this money?
The clear winner identified in the source is a high-yield savings account.
Okay, why specifically high yield?
Well, first, it meets the main criteria. It keeps your money liquid, meaning you can usually access it within a day or 2 via transfer. It's safe, assuming it's at an FDIC-insured bank, up to the legal limit. And it's separate from your checking. The high-yield part is a bonus. It means the account earns a better interest rate than a traditional basic savings account. It won't make you rich, but your emergency fund will at least grow a little bit over time, rather than earning practically nothing.
And it's maybe just inconvenient enough needing that transfer to make you pause and think, is this really an emergency?
Exactly. It requires a conscious, deliberate action to move that money out. That little bit of friction reinforces its purpose.
Okay, so high yield savings is the recommended spot. Now, on the flip side, what does the source say you should absolutely not do with your emergency fund money? What are the big pitfalls to avoid?
The biggest no-no, the most critical mistake, according to the source, is putting this emergency money into volatile investments.
Like stocks or crypto.
Exactly. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cryptocurrency. Anything with a value can go up and down significantly, especially in the short term.
Why is that such a terrible idea for this specific pot of money?
Because the entire point of the emergency fund is stability and immediate accessibility when you need it most. Think about it. Market downturns often happen at the same time recessions hit and people lose jobs.
Right, the worst possible timing.
Exactly. If the stock market crashes right when you get laid off or right when you get hit with a massive medical bill, you could be forced to sell your investments at a huge loss just to get the cash you need.
Defeating the whole purpose of having the fund in the first place.
Completely. This money is purely about security and stability, not about growth or taking risks. The source also strongly advises against keeping large amounts of your emergency fund in physical cash, like, under the mattress.
Really not. Seems accessible.
It's accessible, sure, but it's definitely not safe. Risk of theft, fire, flood.
Yeah.
And it earns absolutely nothing, 0 interest. So it's losing purchasing power to inflation over time. A small amount of cash at home for immediate small needs might be okay, but not the whole fund.
Right. Okay. High risk, 0 reward there.
Yeah.
So let's quickly recap the main mistakes the source warns people against making with their emergency fund.
Okay. Number 1, using the fund for things that are clearly not true emergencies. Vacations, shopping sprees, a down payment on a non-essential purchase.
Yeah.
It's not a fun money account.
Got it. Not for wants.
Number 2, keeping the money somewhere risky, like large amounts of physical cash at home or somewhere it earns absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And number 3, the big one we just discussed, investing it in volatile assets like stocks or crypto, where its value could plummet right when you desperately need it. Too risky for this purpose.
Which really all leads back to what the source identifies as the most fundamental mistake of all.
Which is simply not having an emergency fund in the first place.
Yeah.
The source really drives this point home. Being completely unprotected means you are leaving yourself incredibly vulnerable. One single unexpected event, just one, could potentially wipe out years of financial progress.
And force you into that cycle of damaging high-interest debt.
Exactly. Building this fund isn't just about defense. It's about protecting your financial future, protecting all the hard work you're putting in.
Okay, this has been super clear. So based on this deep dive into the source material, let's try to give our listener a quick, actionable plan. Things they can start thinking about or doing right now.
Okay, yeah. First step, you got to figure out your essential monthly living expenses. Sit down, do the math, get that number clear in your head.
Step 1, know your number.
Okay.
Step 2.
Decide how many months of those expenses you realistically want or need to cover. Think about your personal situation, your job stability, dependents, health, current debt load. Aim for somewhere in that 3 to 6 month range, maybe more if needed.
Okay, personalize your target. Then step 3.
Set a realistic savings goal to start. Don't get overwhelmed by the final number. Maybe just focus on that initial $1,000 or $2,000 mini fund first, like the source suggests. Get that win.
Start small, get momentum. Okay, step 4.
This is maybe the most important for long-term success. Start small, even tiny, but automate your savings transfers. Pay yourself first, every single payday or month. Make it a habit.
Set it and forget it. Love it. And finally,
keep that money somewhere safe, liquid, and separate. Like we discussed, a high-yield savings account is probably the best bet for most people. Accessible when needed, but not too accessible for impulse spending.
Perfect. And the source really emphasizes, doesn't it, that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out immediately to just start building this.
Not at all. You just need to take that first step. Any progress you make toward building that financial airbag is real progress towards greater security and peace of mind.
Yeah. This deep dive into the source material really makes it incredibly clear. An emergency fund isn't just, a nice to have if you can manage it. It feels like a foundational piece of your entire financial life.
It really is. It's potentially the difference between facing an unexpected event with sheer panic or facing it with a plan, with some breathing room.
It really feels like it moves you from a position of vulnerability, maybe feeling kind of fragile, to one of more confidence, more control, and yeah, like you said earlier, genuine peace of mind.
It absolutely embodies the spirit of what we explore in these deep dives.
Yeah.
It's not really about being afraid of all the bad things that might happen.
Yeah.
It's about proactively building your own freedom, cultivating real financial strength, fostering real confidence in yourself, and just creating real options for your life, no matter what comes your way.
So as you're listening and thinking about building your own financial airbag, maybe consider those specific types of emergencies the source listed earlier, job loss, big medical bills, car repairs, emergency travel, unexpected height stuff. Which one of those, if you had to pick, feels like the biggest potential threat to your personal peace of mind right now? And just think for a second. How does the simple idea of having a dedicated fund specifically set aside for that possibility? How did that change how you feel about that potential threat, even just thinking about it right now? Something to maybe ponder as you start building your own security.